リディア・リンスター公女殿下、おたわむれが過ぎます。さ、起きて。
可愛くない可愛くない。そこはご主人様の仰せのままにでしょ。
はいはい。
はいは一回。もう。見た？
Private Tutor. This was episode number 10, my friends. And you know, sometimes you're watching anime and you're watching short anime, okay? And I think most seasonal anime fall into this category. There's onesie twosies that make it into a next season, or they're gonna come back in a season or two or whatever. Like it gets pre-announced. But most seasonal anime, you're getting 11, 12, 13 episodes, and that's pretty much all she wrote. I always find it so interesting, or I'm always so confused at some of the decisions that they make. So this episode wasn't, I want to be clear, this episode wasn't bad per se. It's just a weird decision to have like a filler episode on episode 10, where your audience now has 2 episodes left. So is the choice, and to be clear, again, I don't think this episode was bad, and I don't think it's bad to pivot to a side character that is seemingly interesting. I think Felicia's interesting. I think her desire to be a merchant. I think her success on being a merchant. I think Alan being the middleman between the 2 ducal houses, between the Howards and between wherever Lydia's from. What do they call her family? The Lincasters or something like that. I think him being like that middleman, you know, navigating business deals for them is interesting. And I think him finding a gem or a diamond in the rough in a girl who has a lot of merchant prowess is good. So let's just pause there. I think this episode was good. I think it was horrendous as an episode 10 out of 12, where we have 2 more episodes left. What are they trying to accomplish? And I always go back to, and please keep me honest if you are familiar, if you've read the manga or the light novel, wherever this is sourced from, if you have read it, I would be damned to imagine that there is not enough source material that they couldn't end better, was there so little source material like they had to make what was probably like a chapter or like a half chapter into a whole episode in this girl? Like, was there so little content, you know, that they have to? Or have we just been like, oh yeah, they could have moved through this really quick, but they decided to dedicate all 20 minutes to this Felicia girl? Again, I don't think it was bad, but when you have a limited runway, right? Like you have a quarter mile, not a whole mile in episodes, it's just like, why do this to your audience? You know, we have 2 episodes left. What benefit does it do any of us? Like, let's say even if I was like, oh my God, Felicia is now my favorite character. Well, she's about to fuck off because she's about to she just was in and she's out. The other thing is this episode served as like a setup, because last week we ended on the Stella stuff and we're like, oh, okay, here we go again. He's going to link. He's gonna put his magical PP inside of Stella, and we're gonna have one more girl in the harem, and that's where we thought it was gonna come this week. But instead, and I was already like, man, that's such a shit story. That's so bad writing. But they doubled down and they're like, you know what? We're not just going to bitch slap our viewers once. We're going to bitch slap them twice. Because we're not even going to continue that story that we told you last week. We're going to pivot a different story. They're basically going, and it's just crazy. And then the episode has the audacity to end with Karen coming to Alan and be like, Stella's gone, you know? And this episode served as additional motivation for her to do whatever she's going to do now, because it was one more character figuring their life out as she's just stagnant, as she stalled. But I would argue that she was already at that breaking point last episode. Like, we didn't need more motivation for her to have more reason to go, like, either end it all or go try harder or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? Man, this This show is just not good. It's just not good. Now I'm gonna finish it. I want to be super clear. I'm gonna finish it. We're gonna go through the end, but just the forced harem stuff, the need for them to not close the gap on Lydia and Alan's relationship, where they're basically like pre-married. Even in this episode, right? Alan keeps teasing her of like, you know, if you keep dressing like that, like I can only hold myself back so much. And don't get me wrong, that was a funny moment. But it's like they have this pre-existing relationship that's already pretty solidified in this show, but they don't have our main character and Alan pursue it legitimately because they want to keep the door open for Leanie and for Stella and for his sister Karen and for Tina. And, you know, they want to keep the door open so that like all the girls, including Lydia's little sister, right, can all have a magical hard on for Alan and keep pushing that agenda so that he ends up in a situation where he's like, you know, 8 girls deep or something. It's just, I don't know. It's just not needed. And I get it's probably some dude's power fantasy or whatever he imagined, you know. Yeah, it's just bad. All right, I'm gonna leave you guys there. You know, I don't mean to be negative, but it's one of those things to where it's like, man, you gotta call the kettle black. You know what I mean? You gotta call the pot black. Like if it is what it is what it is, you know? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Maybe you loved it, maybe you're on the opposite side. I want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below, my friends, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 11 as we wrap up the season.